Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in Freshman English, and we turn in your hymnals now to the next section of Homer's Odyssey, translated by Fitzgerald, page 1050, the Cyclops. Now before we go there though, because this is an important reading, many people who don't know anything about Homer or the Odyssey know something about this whacked out story about some big giant with one eye. You know what I'm saying? So they know that story. Before we go there though, I actually want to backtrack in your book for just a second to 1041. I want to remind you that at level 2B, when we're working rhetoric, the easiest way to have access to that information is to begin with the literary analysis topic. There you got me. So if you're ever in doubt what it is you're supposed to be writing down for your 2B annotation pre-class work, just go back to whatever the literary analysis topic is for that text. Now you'll notice that what they've given to you for this series of headings, right, in your book, is the topic epic hero. All right? And no question, we're going to look, and in fact possibly write on, this topic of what makes Odysseus an epic hero. Okay? And we're going to look at that specifically in our study of the Cyclops. But I want to add a couple of more that for the rest of our study of Odyssey I'm very interested in every time we meet one of these sections. If it works for us, we're going to play that game. And it's this. Two other things. You want to write these down right now at level 2B that we will be focusing on. And we'll play this game right away with our study of the Cyclops passage. One, the first thing we want to always pay attention to in our study now is the use of symbolism. Symbolism. One thing which represents something else. All right? For example, Ithaca can symbolize the thing that we will call your goal. Yes? The thing you want to try to get to. The thing you want to try to accomplish. That can be a literal kind of, I got to get to Ithaca, as in I got to get to home. Or it can be metaphoric or figuratively. In other words, I want to graduate. That would be a Ithaca-styled goal. Do you got me? It's out there in the future, and the only way it's going to happen is to go through a lot of crazy. That is to say, I have to battle my monsters. Now, they might not be one-eyed Cyclops monsters that eat humans. They might be a different kind of monster. Like, for example, maybe an illness, right, that you have to fight against that's going to be kind of nasty. That would be one of those things you got to try to overcome. Do you got me? Okay? We were already playing this game by the way of symbolism when we were talking about the land of the lotus eaters. Lotus can kind of symbolize distraction. The thing that takes you away from the thing you're kind of focused on, right? Okay? You have that tendency to kind of be, we call it in 303, of course, monkey mind, don't we? So notice already we're playing that game of making that symbolism. So that's a topic we'll be paying attention to here. Number two, the second one, for all of these different passages, we also want to pay attention at level 2B to this thing we call irony. Irony. That is to say, how the turning out is different from the expectation. Okay? Often, linguistically, irony is played out as, say one thing means something else. You are texting your friend is out on a date. That's when you go out with another person for fun. And you're out on a date, okay? And you text your pal and you go, how's it going? And your pal says, best date I ever had. And you text back, that bad, huh? I guess we'll be hanging out tonight and playing video games. Now somebody watching, like your mom goes, what are you talking about, hun? They just texted and said it was the best date they ever had. No. They were speaking ironically. I'm aware that what they're really saying is, this is the worst date I've ever had in my life. They're not saying it's the best date. Yeah, but they said it was the best date. Well, yeah, but if you know the person, you know that really what's being said here is not it's the best date. They are speaking, we use the term sarcastic, right? Well, that's a form of irony. And so we're going to find that all the way through the Odyssey. One of the reasons for that is, right there in the opening lines of the invocation of the Muse for the Odyssey, Odysseus is a great liar. In other words, he's able to say one thing but mean something else. We're going to see that right here. And in fact, we're going to laugh out loud when we see it here, when the Cyclops monster asks Odysseus, what's your name? And Odysseus is going to give him a name. Okay? And there will be all kinds of then games played off of that. All right? All right, let's turn now to page 1050. We're simply going to follow along follow along with the reading. We want to get through the passage, and then we'll do some annotative work as we go. All right? Everybody good to go? All right, here we go. Let's pay attention now. Follow along. Don't just listen. Make sure you're reading along with the passage.
The Cyclops. In the next land we found were Cyclopes, giants, louts, without a law to bless them. In ignorance, leaving the fruitage of the earth in mystery to the immortal gods, they neither plow nor sow by hand, nor till the ground. Though grain, wild wheat and barley, grows untended, and wine grapes in clusters ripen in heaven's rains. Cyclopes have no muster and no meeting, no consultation or old tribal ways. But each one dwells in his own mountain cave, dealing out rough justice to wife and child, indifferent to what the others do. As we rode on and nearer to the mainland, at one end of the bay we saw a cavern yawning above the water, screened with laurel, and many rams and goats about the place inside a sheepfold, made from slabs of stone earth fast between tall trunks of pine and rugged towering oak trees. A prodigious man slept in this cave alone,
Prodigious,
and took
huge.
his flocks to graze afield. Remote from all companions, knowing none but savage ways, a brute so huge he seemed no man at all of those who eat good wheaten bread, but he seemed rather a shaggy mountain, reared in solitude. We beached there, and I told the crew to stand by and keep watch over the ship. As for myself, I took my 12 best fighters and went ahead. I had a goat skin full of that sweet liquor that Euanthes' son Maron had given me. He kept Apollo's holy grove at Ismarus. For kindness we showed him there, and showed his wife and child. He gave me 7 shining golden talents, perfectly formed, a solid silver wine bowl, and then this liquor, 12 two-handled jars of brandy, pure and fiery. Not a slave in Maron's household knew this drink. Only he, his wife, and the storeroom mistress knew. And they would put 1 cupful, ruby-colored honey, smooth, in 20 more of water. But still, the sweet scent hovered like a fume over the wine bowl. No man turned away when cups of this came round. A wineskin full I brought along, and victuals in a bag, for in my bones I knew some towering brute would be upon us soon, all outward power, a wild man, ignorant of civility. We climbed then briskly to the cave, but Cyclops had gone afield to pasture his fat sheep. So we looked round at everything inside. A drying rack that sagged with cheeses, pens crowded with lambs and kids, each in its class, firstlings apart from middlings, and the dewdrops or newborn lambkins penned apart from both. And vessels full of whey were brimming there, bowls of earthenware and pails for milking. My men came pressing round me, pleading, "Why not take these cheeses, get them stowed, come back, throw open all the pens and make a run for it. We'll drive the kids and lambs aboard. We say put out again on good salt water." Ah, how sound that was, yet I refused. I wished to see the caveman, what he had to offer. No pretty sight it turned out for my friends. We lit a fire, burnt an offering, and took some cheese to eat, then sat in silence around the embers, waiting. When he came, he had a load of dry boughs on his shoulder to stoke his fire at supper time. He dumped it with a great crash into that hollow cave, and we all scattered fast to the far wall. Then, over the broad cavern floor, he ushered the ewes he meant to milk. He left his rams and he-goats in the yard outside, and swung high overhead a slab of solid rock to close the cave.
Top of 1052.
24 four-wheeled wagons with heaving wagon teams could not have stirred the tonnage of that rock from where he wedged it over the doorsill. Next, he took his seat and milked his bleating ewes. A practiced job he made of it, giving each ewe her suckling. Thickened his milk then into curds and whey, sieved out the curds to dip in withy baskets, and poured the whey to stand in bowls, cooling until he drank it for his supper. When all these chores were done, he poked the fire, heaping on brushwood. In the glare, he saw us. "Strangers," he said, "who are you, and where from? What brings you here by seaways, a fair traffic? Or are you wandering rogues who cast your lives like dice and ravage other folk by sea?" We felt a pressure on our hearts, in dread of that deep rumble and that mighty man. But all the same, I spoke up in reply. "We are from Troy, Achaeans, blown off course by shifting gales on the great South Sea. Homeward bound, but taking routes and ways uncommon, so the will of Zeus would have it. We served under Agamemnon, son of Atreus. The whole world knows what city he laid waste, what armies he destroyed. It was our luck to come here. Here we stand, beholden for your help or any gifts you give, as custom is to honor strangers. We would entreat you, great sir, have a care for the gods' courtesy. Zeus will avenge the unoffending guest." He answered this from his brute chest, unmoved. "You are a ninny, or else you come from the other end of nowhere, telling me, mind the gods. We Cyclopes care not a whistle for your thundering Zeus, or all the gods in bliss. We have more force by far. I would not let you go for fear of Zeus, you or your friends, unless I had a whim to. Tell me, where was it now you left your ship? Around the point, or down the shore, I wonder?" He thought he'd find out, but I saw through this, and answered with a ready lie. "My ship? Poseidon, Lord, who sets the earth a-tremble, broke it up on the rocks at your land's end. A wind from seaward served him, drove us there. We are survivors, these good men and I." Neither reply nor pity came from him, but in one stride he clutched at my companions and caught two in his hands like squirming puppies to beat their brains out, spattering the floor. Then he dismembered them and made his meal, gaping and crunching like a mountain lion, everything, innards, flesh, and marrow bones. We cried aloud, lifting our hands to Zeus, powerless, looking on at this, appalled. But Cyclops went on filling up his belly with man flesh and great gulps of whey, then lay down like a mast among his sheep. My heart beat high now at the chance of action, and drawing the sharp sword from my hip, I went along his flank to stab him where the midriff holds the liver. I had touched the spot when sudden fear stayed me. If I killed him, we perished there as well, for we could never move his ponderous doorway slab aside. So we were left to groan and wait for morning. When the young dawn with fingertips of rose lit up the world, the Cyclops built a fire and milked his handsome ewes, all in due order, putting the sucklings to the mothers. Then, his chores being all dispatched, he caught another brace of men to make his breakfast, and whisked away his great door slab to let his sheep go through. But he, behind,
Top of
reset
1054.
the stone as one would cap a quiver. There was a din of whistling as the Cyclops rounded his flock to higher ground, then stillness. And now I pondered how to hurt him worst, if but Athena granted what I prayed for. Here are the means I thought would serve my turn. A club or staff lay there along the fold, an olive tree, felled green and left to season for Cyclops' hand. And it was like a mast, a lugger of 20 oars, broad in the beam, a deep sea-going craft might carry. So long, so big around it seemed. Now I chopped out a 6-foot section of this pole and set it down before my men, who scraped it. And when they had it smooth, I hewed again to make a stake with pointed end. I held this in the fire's heart and turned it, toughening it, then hid it well back in the cavern under one of the dung piles in profusion there. Now came the time to toss for it. Who ventured along with me? Whose hand could bear to thrust and grind that spike in Cyclops's eye when mild sleep had mastered him? As luck would have it, the men I would have chosen won the toss. 4 strong men, and I made 5 as captain. At evening came the shepherd with his flock, his woolly flock. The rams as well this time entered the cave. By some sheep-herding whim, or a god's bidding, none were left outside. He hefted his great boulder into place and sat him down to milk the bleating ewes in proper order, put the lambs to suck, and swiftly ran through all his evening chores. Then he caught 2 more men and feasted on them. My moment was at hand, and I went forward holding an ivy bowl of my dark drink, looking up, saying, "Cyclops, try some wine. Here's liquor to wash down your scraps of men. Taste it, and see the kind of drink we carried under our planks. I meant it for an offering if you would help us home.
10:55.
But you are mad, unbearable, a bloody monster. After this, will any other traveler come to see you?" He seized and drained the bowl, and it went down so fiery and smooth he called for more. "Give me another. Thank you kindly. Tell me, how are you called? I'll make a gift will please you. Even Cyclopes know the wine grapes grow out of grassland and loam in heaven's rain, but here's a bit of nectar and ambrosia." 3 bowls I brought him, and he poured them down. I saw the fuddle and flush come over him. Then I sang out in cordial tones, "Cyclops, you ask my honorable name? Remember the gift you promised me, and I shall tell you. My name is Nobody. Mother, father, and friends, everyone calls me Nobody." And he said, "Nobody's my meat then, after I eat his friends. Others come first. There's a noble gift now." Even as he spoke, he reeled and tumbled backward, his great head lolling to one side, and sleep took him like any creature. Drunk, hiccuping, he dribbled streams of liquor and bits of men. Now, by the gods, I drove my big hand spike deep in the embers, charring it again, and cheered my men along with battle talk to keep their courage up. No quitting now. The pike of olive, green though it had been, reddened and glowed as if about to catch. I drew it from the coals, and my 4 fellows gave me a hand, lugging it near the Cyclops as more than natural force nerved them. Straight forward they sprinted, lifted it, and rammed it deep in his crater eye, and leaned on it, turning it as a shipwright turns a drill in planking, having men below to swing the 2-handled strap that spins it in the groove. So with our brand we bored that great eye socket, while blood ran out around the red-hot bar. Eyelid and lash were seared. The pierced ball hissed broiling, and the roots popped. In a smithy, one sees a white-hot axe head or an adze plunged and wrung in a cold tub, screeching steam, the way they make soft iron hale and hard. Just so, that eyeball hissed around the spike. The Cyclops bellowed, and the rock roared round him, and we fell back in fear. Clawing his face, he tugged the bloody spike out of his eye, threw it away, and his wild hands went groping. Then he set up a howl for Cyclopes who lived in caves on windy peaks nearby. Some heard him, and they came by divers ways to clump around outside and call, What ails you, Polyphemus? Why do you cry so sore in the starry night? You will not let us sleep. Sure, no man's driving off your flock. No man has tricked you, ruined you. Out of the cave, the mammoth Polyphemus roared in answer. Nobody. Nobody's tricked me. Nobody's ruined me. To this rough shout they made a sage reply. Ah, well, if nobody has played you foul there in your lonely bed, we are no use in pain given by great Zeus. Let it be your father, Poseidon, Lord, to whom you pray. So saying, they trailed away, and I was filled with laughter to see how like a charm the name deceived them. Now Cyclops, wheezing as the pain came on him, fumbled to wrench away the great door stone, and squatted in the breach with arms thrown wide for any silly beast or man who bolted, hoping somehow I might be such a fool. But I kept thinking how to win the game. Death sat there huge. How could we slip away? I drew on all my wits and ran through tactics, reasoning as a man will for dear life, until a trick came, and it pleased me well. The Cyclops' rams were handsome, fat, with heavy fleeces, a dark violet. 3 abreast, I tied them silently together, twining cords of willow from the ogre's bed, then slung a man under each middle one to ride there safely, shielded left and right. So 3 sheep
10:59.
they each man. I took the woolliest ram, the choicest of the flock, and hung myself under his kinky belly, pulled up tight, with fingers twisted deep in sheepskin ringlets for an iron grip.